I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time we are still in 1995. If you listen to our last episode, it is Goldeneye, brought to us by Martin Campbell. Isn't that right, George?
That is right, Charlie.
We're doing this as a nice, neat, and well-scheduled tie-in with the upcoming release of No Time to Die.
I'm just getting some buzzing noise in my ear that No Time to Die has been delayed yet again.
Okay, that's because of the coronavirus?
My corona, yes. We're not going to dwell on that because everyone else is.
We're not changing our schedule.
We're going to crack on as planned.
We are professional.
We're going to crack on as usual and talk about the classic film that is Goldeneye. 25 years old this year, and yes, we were timing it to nicely dovetail with No Time to Die, which has now been pushed back to November, which was probably when Goldeneye was originally released. So anyway, we're going to chat about it, and we're going to have fun.
Yeah, so in this episode we've covered Bond before, haven't we? We did View to a Kill.
Sorry, you didn't pronounce it right. A View to a Kill!
Where we had a lot of fun doing bad impressions of Christopher Walken, in a bit of a tribute to the passing of Sir Roger Moore. George and I are massive Bond fans, as you might expect of our age and our love of cinema. So this coverage comes from a place of love. We are going to poke fun at it. There's very little that we do not know about Bond. I would say that, we've got almanacs, catalogues,
encyclopedias.
Yeah.
I have many books by Roger Moore, including Bond on Bond, where Roger talks about all the other Bonds.
And what's the other one? My word is
my Bond.
Yeah, so, and for more Roger Moore and Christopher Walken impressions, check out our View to a Kill. So in this episode, we will be covering all things about the 1995 blockbuster, what it meant for Bond at the time, everything else that was going on surrounding the Bond universe, and the things that followed. So it's 1995.
And obviously we're going to talk about the game that came out in 1997, but has had an influence on many people's lives.
Yes, and if you know Goldeneye the film, I'm sure you'll be aware of the game. So most of you know what to expect. For anyone who doesn't, here's George with a quick reminder on some general housekeeping.
So we are film lovers, we are not film professionals, so we do strive for professionalism, and
we are podcast professionals.
We are podcast professionals for sure. So yeah, we aim to entertain and inform at the same time. This is a light-hearted look back at the films that Charlie and I grew up with. Charlie and I are brothers, not lovers.
Anymore.
It was just wrong. So just a heads up, in terms of word of warning, we're going into detail on these films, so there will be spoilers from the very off. There may be some casual swearing, and more than likely to be some terrible, terrible impressions, as you've already witnessed. So yeah, I think that's about it, really.
I think we probably will be making some jokes about some of the misogyny in this, but we are poking fun at how dated those sort of things look. The way that Boris treats Natalia and things like that. It is interesting.
It was the 90s.
You could get away with a lot more back then. Okay, so without further ado, we are jumping into our time machine. We're recording this on mini disc. George still has copious amounts of mini disc for us to record on. So here it is, 1995 Goldeneye.
Release Tina Turner. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.
Is the target.
72 hours ago, a secret weapon system was detonated over Serenaya.
And the threat is real.
Goldeneye exists. A radiation surge that destroys everything with an electronic circuit.
You can still depend on one man.
I want you to find Goldeneye.
3.
Find who took it.
2.
And stop it.
1.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
The world's most famous secret agent is back.
We aim to please.
And this time, 007 is facing the ultimate enemy. The man who knows him best. Now, the entire world is about to be caught in the crossfire.
See you in hell, James. You first.
Okay, so where do we start, George? It's 1995.
No, we're starting.
We're going way back.
We're starting much earlier.
Yeah, I think with something like Bond, with a franchise like Bond, George and I discussed this earlier, and I think putting this into context, obviously the majority, if not all, Bond films follow a certain formula, and I think without us talking about the entire history of Bond, we're going to assume you know a little bit, and we're probably going to talk, 2 films before this about what happened in the maybe 5 or 10 years that led up to this?
Yeah, so essentially in the position we kind of find ourselves in with A View to a Kill, because Bond is the longest running film franchise of all time. It's essentially, this is a sequel, and most of the time we are covering the first, we do a lot of one-offs. If we do a sequel like we did with Bad Boys and Mission Impossible, we usually do it as like a nice sort of back-to-back. So it's a little bit of a different approach to this one, because it's the 17th film in a 25 film series, is it more? It must be more than that.
This is the 25th Time to Die.
So we are going to, this is obviously Mr. Pierce Brosnan's, my name is Bond,
who we will be referring to quite a lot. We'll take Adam Buxton's pet name from Bronholm.
So yes, it's Mr. Brosnan's debut, but we have to go back a bit further. So originally, Mr. Brosnan was all lined up, ready to jump in a car and go to the press conference to be announced as James Bond in 1986. Pierce was going to take over from Roger Moore. And he was all set up, and he was about to leave for the press conference, and got a call from his agent, and the TV show that he'd been in, Remington Steele, had been. Can I have a second series, you shit? So yes, his contract got renewed, and so he had to bow out. So, in a similar instance of when we talked about Indiana Jones, obviously Tom Selleck lost out on the role of Indiana Jones because Magnum, I think, got renewed.
Yeah.
So yes, those pesky TV contracts, they always come back to haunt you. So yes, Pierce had to lose out that time, and obviously we had, you and I are big fans of Mr. Dalton, the Welsh one.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
Thespian Bond.
Obviously, he only did 2 films. He did Living Daylights and License to Kill, which obviously they are in the Retro Ramble canon, so we will no doubt be covering them at some point. And License to Kill was met with some sort of, it was a bit of a box office dud. It was obviously a 15 rated Bond, so it was a bit more violent. And
it was reactionary to a lot of other films that were out at the same time.
Like Lethal Weapon, etc. And
even took its music.
Yeah, from Lethal, Mr. Cayman. I think a lot of people assume that because License to Kill wasn't as successful, that Mr. Dalton was fired or was unhappy and walked away, but that's not the case at all. So work on the 3rd Dalton film began in sort of, I think, late 1989, 1990. And he was all set to appear because he had a 3-film contract. Mm-hmm. So in 1990, Michael G. Wilson, who is one of the Bond producers and stepson of Cubby Broccoli, him and Alfonso Ruggiero, not to be confused with Alfonso Ribeiro, who is Carlton from The Fresh Prince.
Okay.
They did a script that was featuring robotic designs, that Bond favourite, microchips, an advanced electronic apparatus. It had a very scientific background. It was based around Asia, so it went from Scotland to Hong Kong, Japan, mainland China. The main villain was a guy called Sir Henry Lee Ching, who was a brilliant and handsome 30-year-old British-Chinese entrepreneur who his evil plan, he wanted to get Britain to withdraw from Hong Kong.
This kind of sounds like a mashup of Die Another Day and Tomorrow Never Dies.
Very much so. And wait, there's more, because his evil plot was to threaten to unleash a computer virus that would paralyze every military and commercial unit in the world. So it sounds a little bit Goldeneye.
Yeah,
and Tomorrow Never Dies with that whole Chinese influence, World War III, Hong Kong type thing. So, but unfortunately, the project entered development hell because of legal problems, because the owners, MGM, distributors, United Artists, and the Broccoli family, so Eon or Dan Jack as they're also known. So there was massive legal issues basically from 1990 to 1993. But they all got resolved finally in May 1993. And MGM announced that the 17th Bond film was back in the works with a brand new script by a guy called Michael France. And despite that 3-year hiatus, Dalton was still attached. So in an interview in 1993, he announced filming was set to begin in January-February 1994. Then there was more delays, and basically Dalton he's said in interviews recently, well, I say in the last 10 years, that he was happy to fulfill his third and final film of his contract, go out on a bang sort of type thing. But for Cubby Broccoli, he was like, well, we've had this massive hiatus.
We need to reestablish you.
Yeah. We
need to start again, kind of thing.
I want you to sign up for another 3 films. And at that point, we've talked about Dalton being a bit of a thesp, and he just didn't want Bond to be his whole life.
The theatre calls for me. I must go back to the theatre.
Cubby, the boards call for me. So, so they basically had a difference of opinion, and Dalton has said, in hindsight, I can understand why Broccoli wanted that, but it just wasn't for me. So he hung up the Walter PPK in April 1994. 2 months later, hello, is that Piers? Piers, you're back. Guess who's back in the back time?
Back in the big time.
Big in the back time. So yes, 2 months later, Pierce Brosnan got the call and was announced as Bond.
We've talked about how he is kind of like an amalgamation of all the Bonds that came before. He was a good mix, whereas the others were quite chalk and cheese between, say, Sir Roger Moore and Connery, and then obviously you've got who's that Australian one?
Lisenby.
Yeah, Lisenby. And then obviously Dalton. So all very different. And he was kind of like, as we said, it's like a computer game character version of Bond. Let's just mix them all together and see what we get.
It's like somebody's created an algorithm.
Yeah, it is.
But no, I mean, to be fair, and I've written a couple of articles on our blog about this. So the fight between like Dalton and Brosnan, that Brosnan has been quite open and said, oh yeah, I was trying to take that sort of roughness of Connery with the charm of Moore, and he never felt he really did it his own thing.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have a lot of love for Dalton, and I know a lot of other Bond fans do. I think the casual fans less so, but I think Dalton, if Brosnan had been cast originally in 1986, it would have been an easier transition for a harder Bond.
Yeah.
Rather than,
because
Dalton's was so different to Roger's charming, lounge lizard type approach.
But it did definitely, Timothy Dalton definitely did pave the way for the Bond that we enjoy today. The Daniel Craig, the dark, the cold killer.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you and I have chatted about it before, and would chew anyone's ear off that's listening that, Dalton was doing the gritty, serious Bond 20 years before Craig was.
Yeah, and it's the one that Fleming would, I think, relate to the most. And was Fleming still around when this was made?
Oh, God, no. Fleming didn't even get to see Goldfinger.
Never say never again.
Thankfully, never got to see Never Say. Never say. So yes, Fleming died in 63, 64. So I think he saw the first two, and I think he died during the making of Goldfinger.
Right, okay.
But speaking of Mr. Ian Fleming, so this was the first...
Slightly racist.
You daft racist. So this is the first a completely original Bond film. So it had no all the other films previously...
They came from one of the books or from
whilst they had... A lot of them had literally just taken the name and a couple of plot points or character names. This was the first completely original Bond story. So the title itself was taken from Ian Fleming's Jamaican Holiday Bungalow, Goldeneye, which apparently he had also planned on Operation Goldeneye during...
That was one of his World War II
missions. So yes, it was named after Ian Fleming's Jamaican home, where he wrote all the Bond novels, and yes, the story is completely fabricated from scratch, essentially. Created. So in terms of, I say, Michael France did the original story, but then, as with any Bond story, some had various different people come in to polish the script. I think Bruce Fierstein's one of them, and there's many writers on every Bond film. They're rarely from the pen of one person. But in terms of directors, originally it was offered to John Woo, who gracefully turned it down.
Wow. So, Sean, what I need you to do is jump through the air with 2 Colts in your hands, firing, and then I will release the doves.
I mean, yeah, imagine a spy action film with John Woo. Oh no, we got one.
Yeah,
we got one. Crazy Mission Impossible 2. So, John Woo had to gracefully decline, and then they turned to Martin Campbell, who he's a New Zealand director, but his background was mainly in TV. He did a very well-received TV show in the 80s called Edge of Darkness, which he would later remake again as a film starring our favourite racist Mel Gibson.
Right, and it's called Edge of Darkness?
Edge of Darkness.
Okay.
So, yeah, but
not familiar with that film.
But it was a mini-series originally in the 80s, and then they turned it into a film in the early noughties, maybe?
Series for dwarfs.
You can't say that. And the other thing that made it different from all the other Bond films was the filming location. So historically, Bond's home had been Pinewood Studios, and I think it still is. But at that time, Pinewood Studios was busy. It had been reserved for the film for somebody else, starring in the film First Night.
Oh my God, is that Richard Gere, Sean Connery, shiny armour?
Yes, Camelot. So yes, Pinewood was busy. So Bond being Bond, they basically took over an old Rolls-Royce factory at Leavesden. So it's an aerodrome, so an airport and factory that had been derelict. And they converted it into a brand new studio. So if you on the Goldeneye special features, and you can probably find them on YouTube, they basically gutted this huge hangar and turned it into a makeshift studio. But ironically, once they left there, and obviously they leased it, it became a running studio for many other productions. So the Phantom Menace filmed there, and then Warner Brothers started filming their lots, and they filmed a lot of Harry Potter there, and that's now where the Harry Potter studio experience is.
So it's very much established.
Yeah, but it all started with Goldeneye, essentially.
Wow.
So yes, it has a little bit of history there.
Can we talk about the DVD for a second? Because I obviously went back and watched this on DVD.
Bum, 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 bum. With the very truncated menu system.
I was going to say, it's very cutting-edge, futuristic DVD.
A breakthrough digital process.
Yeah, DVD.
Yeah, we'll have to insert that clip, because you have to watch it on every single Bond DVD.
This is DVD. And this is what happens when you watch DVD. It's a movie on a disc the size of a CD. The picture is twice as sharp as VHS. The sound is infinitely clearer. It looks and sounds like you're at the movies, but you can experience it at home. DVD.
Yeah, and what do you get with it? Well, you get the making of.
Do you
get the trailer? No. I know you do. You get the trailer.
It's just it's a very convoluted. Everything's like there's mission briefing. There's
when there's actually
MI all these things. Just tell me where the trailers are.
there's not much to it. So yeah, do you want to? Is there anything more in terms of what went on in the background to make this film reality, or should we just dive in and talk about our favorite bits of the film?
Let's just dive in. In terms of the opening, the cold open, the pre-title sequence, pre-credit sequence,
PTS.
I had to, for my GCSE English, I think, for some reason. We had to study. It was a little bit of media study, so we had to study and break down both the opening, like the dam jump bit, and the car chase. And we literally had to watch that scene at school something like 20, 30 times, and it was just so mind-numbing. And it was just like, so I know those opening scenes in terms of they do a bit of
camera work.
Yeah, and in terms of the opening scene with him running along the dam, it's very much a similar approach to how they take with On Her Majesty's Secret Service with the new Bond, and they kind of do it a little bit with
can't see him yet.
With Living Daylights, as you never see his face until
the reveal.
Well,
it's treated like a reveal, isn't it? It's like zoom in.
Yes. What do you mean when he's hanging upside down in the toilet?
Yeah,
watching a man have a poo. But it's very well done in terms of the angles and stuff, his face is in shadow and stuff like that. But it's a phenomenal opening, isn't it? The dam jump, and I think it's up there with. Obviously, it's not as good as the Union Jack, parachute, but it's
a homage.
It's a brilliant stunt, and I remember. I think this for me. In terms of first memories, I think this was the first Bond I saw at the cinema, because I think I would have probably been too young for Living Daylights.
No, Living Daylights was the first one I saw.
Because I would have been 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, License to Kill was a 15.
Yeah.
Though I do remember getting that out from Gojo Video.
For my birthday.
Was it for your birthday?
Yeah, I think that was because it came out in November and then obviously took 6 months to come out on video.
At least.
And I remember having everyone over and us watching it and thinking,
having a nice honeymoon. So yes, for me, this was my first big screen Bond experience. And I remember there was audible gasps for that bungee jump over, or just that wow, because it is a great stunt,
and I think it's one of the first times, because in terms of the age we were at, so I was like 14 when I saw this, so big experience to see this at the cinema. And then afterwards I read the book on the film, and in the book they go into more detail about the stuff.
Oh, you mean the novelization?
It is the novelization.
I think we both read that.
Yeah, and they fill in all the gaps, and they talk about the jump in detail, about how he's got to time it to absolute perfection in terms of the velocity and the elasticity of the bungee jump.
Yeah, firing the piton at the right time.
At the exact right moment. But the piton has a laser on. It's like so many Bond things in such a short period of time.
All the sound effects, that's the thing that you and I always talk about, the Bond films. The ricochet, that laser sound.
Yeah.
It's so Bond.
Yeah, it's classic. And it's hopefully not lost. I hope they'll go back to employing a few more gadgets, because the use of gadgets in the recent films seem to be...
They've dialed it back a bit, haven't they?
They've dialed it back, or they have to be part of the plot for some reason, whereas back in the day, especially in the 90s, it was gadgets for the sake of gadgets.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's going to be impossible for us to talk around these sort of opening scenes without thinking of the game. And I think that's the thing, as you were saying, for many people, they're going to be more familiar and have spent more time with the game, playing through those levels. And it feels like you're getting more of that story in terms of... before you do the dam jump, and then obviously the whole facility bit is,
well, it's still very much in people's minds. I mean, I saw a very funny meme online on a total tangent where I don't know if you've seen it, but somebody put up a picture of Steven Seagal.
All right.
Present day, he's obviously piled on a few pounds.
Oh yes,
and it said Steven Seagal now looks like the bad guy in the loo on the first level of Goldeneye, and they're not talking even about the film, they're talking about the game. So that shows how much it permeated the public
and I think
mindset.
They had so much access to the film in terms of all of the drafts, all the set designs and stuff like that. So
the studio involved with it.
Yeah, right? So I think they took in so much of the planning in that, more than you see in the whole sort of facility bit. You just see that little bit where he meets our favourite Yorkshireman, Sean Bean.
Oh, you bastard.
But he's very posh in this.
Yeah, James.
007.
Yeah. But he, this is not really Charlie trivia. George told me this earlier. He auditioned for the role.
Yes, so I think even, again, back in the late 80s, he had auditioned for the role. And it's a bit like the same thing happened on Batman Begins. Cillian Murphy auditioned for the role of Batman. Batman. And Christopher Nolan was like, yeah, I can't really see you being Batman. I can see you being the villain, though.
But it's interesting in that I don't think we'd seen another 00 agent do anything other than just perish,
die,
or be a corpse in the other Bond films. Whereas in this, he gets a character, he gets a name, and obviously it's revealed later on that he is the villain.
But we used to, I think we even joked about that in A View to a Kill, that it was like a running Roger Moore plot point of him opening with a 00 dying and him having to pick up the trail from there.
Yeah.
So I think it's Octopussy, View to a Kill, and at least maybe one other.
Living Daylights, there was all on the Gibraltar Rock. There's at least 2 of them get taken out, and they're all 00s, aren't they?
Yeah, and but people did say that it's something that we haven't really seen. They haven't really touched on in the Daniel Craig ones. We haven't seen any other 00s, but it looks like in No Time to Die, there's going to be.
They're playing with the numbers again.
Yeah, is it Latasha Lynch? Is
the new 007?
She's a new 00 or potentially 007.
Yeah. And that hasn't been done at all to just generate chatter online. Anyway, so in terms of this scene, it's brilliantly done. I remember seeing is one of the key. Obviously, they get into the room where they've got to blow up the. What is it? Chemical weapons, nerve gas.
Weapons.
Who cares?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Closing time, James.
Lots of Kalashnikovs, AK-47s on the lookout. Don't shoot! You'll blow the tanks. But I just
can't win.
I love that guy. Umarov is
Umarov. Yeah,
he does some great performances in this, and it's interesting to see how the passage of time and with him, and we'll get to that. But I remember when we first saw the trailer, it was sort of showing there's this, as we said, the multifaceted Pierce Brosnan, showing many different sides of Bond that's come before. Is the fact that as he's round the corner reloading his gun and there's bullets going past his ears, and he just slightly moves his head as if it's a nuisance rather than saving his own life. And that was in the trailer, and it was like, oh, this is this type of Bond. It was kind of the first Bond that was properly self-aware.
Yes, and very much so. And obviously we'll go into that with the stuff with M, that the Dalton years, it was very much pussyfooting around the whole AIDS crisis and him being sort of
don't touch me,
not settling down.
But I love that opening scene both in this film and the next one. Tomorrow Never Dies, both the cold opens are very strong. I think almost Tomorrow Never Dies is trying to repeat the Goldeneye one, because you've got that great scene and he does the great escape, and I'd forgotten about the Nazis on the motorcycles. Had you forgotten about
the Nazis on the motorcycles?
But they look like it looks like it suddenly goes to, it's like, where do they get get on the motorbikes?
Yeah, I know, that's it. As I said, everyone gasped at the bungee jump stunt, but equally,
let's go to another level.
I think everyone groaned or was laughing at the whole him skydiving after the plane, catching up with the plane,
getting into the plane,
and then
pulling it out of the dive.
I would have been happily impressed if it was just a simple case, a bit like he does in License to Kill, where he does it, barefoot water skiing and catches and takes over the plane on water.
Yeah,
if it was just a simple case of him catching up on the bike and then crawling in and then taking off just before it took off, or maybe as the plane was free falling, him just scrabbling to get in. I don't think you needed the whole him.
I think they do drag it out. I think, as you say, a little tweak for us looking back with our with the benefit of hindsight. But yeah, just the whole fact that it seems to be the plane goes, it like makes it so impossible that it almost breaks the believability even in the realms of James Bond. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, he's going to die. Yeah, it could have been better if it was just much closer. That he was
just before it went off the edge, he manages to get in the plane,
and it starts to. Anyway, we're dissecting it. It was. It looks a bit dated now.
Yes, and speaking of dated, there are some good and some bad and some amazing model work in this. This has been Derek Meddings is the guy behind this. He's a legendary miniature model maker. Sadly, he died a few months after they finished filming, so the film's actually dedicated to him at the end. But he worked on.
We are big fans of his miniature work, in other films.
Yeah, so he worked on Superman, the movie, and Batman as well. And I think he's got a huge career in miniatures. And again, you'll probably find it on YouTube, but it's on the DVD. There's a few little features showing all the detail, like so for all the Severnaya stuff, and they were building these replica MiGs because at that time, and as Martin Campbell says,
CGI wasn't there.
CGI wasn't there. Although and for them as well, it's actually a relatively small budget film. It had only had a budget of around 60 million.
That's not much for a Bond film, though.
Considering I read recently Spectre had an estimated budget of 300 million.
Wow.
But so that explosion of him flying over the chemical thing as it's blowing up is a lovely bit of model work from Derek Meddings. Before we launch into, are we going to rate the credit sequence with the lovely Tina Turner?
It's brilliant,
full of sexy communists.
So girls, models, I need you to break those rocks, but do it slowly. Do it. Yeah,
do
it sexy.
You've got hammers, sickles, sexy birds, sexy communists.
I've never seen people break rocks in such a romantic way.
And then there's a bit where the girl just opens her mouth and a gun pops out.
Yeah,
a little bit weird. But anyway, love Goldeneye. The song is one of my favourites. I mean, it's
as good as a good Bassie, as a good Shirley Bassey.
It's Tina giving her best Bassie, but written by Barnell and The Edge.
Yeah.
And produced by Nellie Hooper, who used to be, I think, produced Massive Attack. So quite an interesting collaboration.
Still sounds good today.
Even though the lyrics don't make any sense.
I know, they don't make any sense, yeah.
I used to watch you from the shadows as a child. What?
That sounds a bit weird.
But anyway, great song. And we're on to another great action set piece of BMW versus Ferrari. Oh, no, sorry, Ferrari versus Aston.
Yeah, because does that happen? When's Severnaya, Boris and Natalia?
So that's after.
Okay.
Afterwards, yeah. So basically, credits. Because I studied it so much, my GCSEs, credits finish, and then it launches into the car chase.
With a delicious stuntman.
No, I was going to say, not delicious stuntman, the horrible score by Eric Serra. It's that soft porn-esque.
Do you think it's trying to emulate the Spy Who Loved Me chase scene? That sort of disco music still sounds good today, whereas this one does not.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how this came about, why we got Eric Serra, because obviously you mentioned License to Kill. They had Michael Kamen, who was very much renowned for his stuff on Lethal Weapon and Die Hard and Roadhouse. I think John Barry by this point was either very ill or had retired, so that's why he wasn't available. But Eric Serra, he'd done a lot of Luc Besson stuff, so he'd done
Fifth Element, Leon.
And I actually think because his stuff is quite synthy, it works for Fifth Element. I think some of the Fifth Element stuff is pretty good. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work for Bond.
But it's just not his best work. It's also pretty loose. It sounds like a Commodore 64 game loading music. It's and it doesn't fit the scene.
And even the orchestral stuff is just a little bit off as well.
Well, yeah, because it's got a blend, hasn't it? It's got the futuristic synth stuff, and then it's actually got some strings and usual orchestral music as well. So it hasn't aged so well.
No.
But it's a good scene in terms of the which I think we talked about when we covered Mission Impossible 2. We felt that was kind of
very much so.
The curvy corners, cliff type.
Oh, but it is a brilliant done action sequence, and obviously features a little bit of Roger Moore-esque comedy with the bike wankers, middle-aged men shaking their fists, and you've got I think Bronholm gets a lot of stick, but he looks the part. He looks amazing in this, and I think, if anything, again, going back to...
It's the Aston Martin, thanks.
It's the Aston Martin. He's being very charming. He's...
showing off his driving skills.
Yeah. But, he delivers the lines. He looks the part. He does a good job. And I think he gets a lot of unfair stick, does Brosnan.
Yeah, we enjoyed his films.
I love the... I'm leaping ahead, but the bit where he receives a fax in his car, the wave of the future, faxes.
Yeah. No, but then there's a period of... it was like... Do you want me to continue doing the Roger Moore or try something different? Because there's the line from Moneypenny, then he goes to the casino, and there's I can do Roger Moore, and I can do Sean Connery.
Well, that's it. There's a bit where he's when he's chatting to Xenia in the casino, and everything
line, he says is a pun.
Is a pun. He's like, just take a freaking break. Shoot in and out.
I think that's at the time it was like, okay, are they, as a said before, self-aware. Are they trying to take the piss out of themselves? And today it just looks cliche.
Yeah.
So many cliche. So he's in a casino, but he's in a tux,
well,
he's done the line.
I mean, that's it. They're very...
Whispers, James Bond.
Well, that's it in terms of it's very much...
By the numbers.
Bond's greatest hits. And I think... I remember Dad saying that when we came out of seeing it at the cinema, saying, oh, well, I've seen it all before, but...
It's for a new generation.
I think that's it. And I think because there was that whole hiatus and they had to come back strong. They had to come back fighting and saying, yes, this is, this was make or break, that James Bond is still relevant. He's still, king of the action film. And, I think, stick to, what you know best. And, you've got the DB5, you've got the 00 agents, you've got the casino, but it works. And
the whole plot works. I think we talked about the writing, but we've watched this film and we have played this film in the game. So we've gone through the plot backwards and forwards many times, and it does hold together. Everything makes sense. It's like, why did he do that? That makes no sense. If you're going to criticize it for anything, I don't think
it's over familiar. Maybe
no. What I was going to say is that there's a crucial plot point in this film is the passing of time, and I don't think that's hammered down enough. You don't really pick up the fact that, because we're leading up to
the opening sequence and
the difference of time. Does
it just say several? Does it even say several years?
I'm
later?
not even sure if it does. It probably does.
Yeah.
I think because what is it? 5 years have passed.
Yeah, I think so.
And I guess we wouldn't pick that. We wouldn't take that. We wouldn't come up with that number out of nothing.
Well, I suppose it's important to mention that this was the first Bond to be made since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah. So. Still, a lot of mentions of hard currency, but should we talk about Judi Dench?
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant. A bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War. Whose boyish charms, though wasted on me, obviously appeal to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you.
Who are you talking to? Judi Dench.
Yeah. Yes, she is, phenomenal. She's brilliant in this, and
would go on to outlast anybody else in the franchise at this point.
Well, that's it. But it shows that why she's became so vital to the series. And again, it was an attempt to be a bit fresher. I think in reality, MI5 had appointed the head of MI5. I can't remember her name, Stella something. She was appointed in 1992, so it was very much
all right. It was moving with the times,
reflecting. That's it. Bond's always got their finger on the pulse for at least 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's, Judi Dench is a national treasure, and she's brilliant at that role in terms of cutting him down. Obviously, there's that, very famous quote, sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War. There we go.
Yeah. Have we just watched this a lot, or I think
maybe.
But I think the lines stood up this because it was like,
and it's the delivery as well.
Yeah, it's very well done, and you sort of see a different side to him. He's a bit playful, he's a bit naughty, he's gonna
sexually harassing Moneypenny.
Yeah, because he was still getting away with that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, but again, there is that self-aware, because she's like, I could have you on sexual harassment, and he's like,
I made a note of that, sexual harassment.
But seriously, I will see.
Me Too movement.
I think this was the first time that they properly introduced Tanner.
Yeah.
Who's was a key figure in the books, that is Bond's best friend at MI6, and
he's still in it today, though, isn't he?
Yes, played by Rory Kinnear. So again, he's very much has gone on to become like a key part of the films, because he was a key part in the books. And yeah, he's it's brilliant. See when he's like, was it called the Evil Queen of Numbers?
Yeah, and she's behind you.
We found a match. You're missing Tiger
in the middle of northern Russia.
Seems your hunch was right, 007. It's too bad the Evil Queen of Numbers wouldn't let you play it.
But there's a lot of great actors in this. You look at everyone in this film; they're all established, good quality. Because he's a very big TV actor, isn't he? The guy who plays Tanner.
Yes, yeah, he's. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but yeah, he's been in loads of like TV dramas and stuff like that. Got a really good cast. I've got a nice fact for you that. None of the principal cast members playing Russians
are Russian. I think we've talked about this before. Obviously,
so Isabella Skorupko is Natalia. She is Polish. The lovely Famke Janssen, who would go on and have quite a reputable career with X-Men and stuff. She is Dutch. Ourumov is played by Gottfried John, who is German. our man Chucky Cario from Bad Boys is, as we've talked about, he's French.
Yeah.
So he plays Minister Mishkin, and Robbie Coltrane and Alan Cumming are both Scottish.
Yeah, and it does come through a little bit in
Coltrane.
Coltrane's Scottish, but it works because it's like
Lydium.
Yeah, no, but it does. I don't know. It's like,
but he's brilliant, and again, it's good that they
brought him back for World Is Not Enough.
Yes,
yeah,
and obviously you've got Jack Wade as well. So they were trying to sort of establish recurring characters and stuff like that. But yes, there is some great, as you say, great character actors. Xenia, Famke Janssen is very much leaning into, hammy Fatima Blush type femme fatale that we've seen in, countless Bond films. But she does it, brilliantly, doesn't
Getting
she?
aroused by killing people is not something you see a lot in a film.
No, I was thinking it's quite bold for a Bond film, which are usually fairly family friendly.
Yeah, because she's hot. Yeah. And two, the fact that she's getting off and killing people, you're like, that is sexy. Yeah. Keep killing people.
No, but it's a way like she's mowing down all the people at the Seven Eyes station, and she's like really getting off, and Ormov just gives her a side look, a bit of a pod, just like, what?
don't do it like that.
So yeah, we have that whole brilliant sequence where the Goldeneye is activated, and again, that's when we get to see that amazing model work. So all that stuff with the planes, the explosion, that's all miniatures. I thought, they've got footage. Even the stuff the plane's taking off, that's all miniatures.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really brilliantly done, and apparently they did some of the snowstorms by a mixture of self-raising flour and cat litter.
The tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade. And yes, we get to meet, as you said, the Alan Cummins Boris with his slug heads. Is that because he can't swear?
I think so, yeah.
Slug heads.
And slightly misogynist. So we've just got Natalia. So I've taken the time to draw and create a graphic of Natalia in a bikini.
With massive boobs.
Yeah. So yeah, slightly, but it's interesting. It's sort of like there's a lot of sort of you don't just as he talks about later, you don't just go in and ask for the keys. There's codes, there's a process,
and I love the elaborate GoldenEye key system.
Yeah, and the CD drive, which is enormous, because we joked about that when we were watching it when we were younger.
and there's the keys that actually have eyes on them.
Yeah,
and then it has to activate a laser. Again, more Bond laser sounds to turn on the screen.
Yeah,
it's like
so much.
Where's the on button?
Yeah.
I've got a question now. How does Boris get away? Because
there's not enough room in the Tiger?
In the helicopter.
Yeah, that's a very good question, yeah.
Question for another time.
Yeah. Or maybe there is space in the helicopter.
He's just hanging on underneath.
Yeah. I'm invincible!
He's invincible. The other question I have for you, it's me picking apart. Whilst an EMP basically wipes out anything with an electronic pulse, does it cause that many explosions? A lot of things explode.
Yeah, I don't know. I think...
And it's that classic sort of film fiction of, well, let's just put the lightning on it and then things will explode.
Yeah, I think there are some theatricality involved.
Poetic license.
Yeah, and dramatic. I don't know, because from my experience, which is very little, but I mean, if you see this in more recent uses of EMP, it's kind of like just everything dies.
That's what I thought.
I'm not even sure you'd see electric sparks. I could be wrong.
But I suppose it's as you say, it's that theatricality.
Yeah, and they've got to show it. It can't just say, oh, everyone's gone off. Yeah. Nothing works anymore. Yeah. Phone's gone off.
But it was a big 90s thing, EMP, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It became a big sort of plot point. Was it Chain Reaction? Was that another one?
Yeah, I think so. But no, it became a very big thing. And even today, it's used quite... It's used quite a lot. Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got portable EMPs in COD. But no, and obviously in the next film, it would all be about the next revolutionary technical ability, GPS. Where this one, it was EMP.
I think it's important to talk about, you talked about...
Brosnan's trousers.
I wasn't going to say that, but go on.
Well, okay, so to get the Tiger helicopter, there's the whole thing with the yacht and the captain.
Oh, with his yacht club casual.
Yeah,
look.
But it's an amazing look. And when you watch it now, it's like it asks a very important question. Is it the jacket that's too long or the trousers that are too high? We'll never know.
It's a very big double-breasted blazer with lovely gold. It's very
His trousers are very high.
It's very high.
His trousers are extremely high. It's almost like he's wearing a cummerband, but it's actually his trousers.
Interesting. I was reading... I I think it was in the behind the scenes features, but that helicopter, the Tiger helicopter, which is a real helicopter, whilst the film was made in 1905, it didn't actually go into active service until 2005. So the Bond producers got like one of the first full prototypes to use in the film, which is quite impressive. But no, I was going to talk about Q and his cue cards. Basically, bless him, Desmond Llewellyn, who's been in every Bond film since From Russia with Love, and so he's very old. And I don't know about you, but you can clearly see, bless him, he's reading, like his eyes are slightly off to the side because he's even admitted this, that he couldn't remember his lines, so he's basically got someone behind camera holding up his lines on cue cards. Yeah, but it's still nice to have him in the film. They've got that great joke and they have a nice relationship, don't they? It is more sort of grandfatherly rather than, both Connery and Moore gave him a bit of stick. Yeah, and he always used to get in trouble for destroying his stuff, but it was sort of like, yeah. No, I like the chemistry between them, and I always just think of the next film, it's always very, I don't know, just weird, where he's like, he gives them the two rules, never let... No, that's... No, it's World Is Not Enough. Yeah, because... That's his last film. Yes, yes, yeah, that's his last film. Yes, sadly he did. I mean, they were obviously lining it up because they had John Cleese as his assistant, and then he took over for Die Another Day. But yes, they were sort of lining up. But yeah, he tragically died in a car crash. He didn't die of old age. Yeah. So yes, very sad, but he's very good in this. It's part of the Bond franchise. Yes, even though I say it's quite obvious, even though I didn't notice at the time, he's reading off cards. Yeah, but that's the classic. But once again, Bond by the numbers. We're getting what we want to see. We're getting you want to see the room full of gadgets and gadgets that could probably never exist. I love the X-ray scanner on the tray. It's like, what? Yeah, the X-ray. Have you seen the size of an X-ray machine? Yeah, it's like half the size of a room. It's like, yeah, we've got all of that technology into a tray now. Into a tray, and yeah, the completely useless stuff like the guy that gets stuck in the foam booth. Yeah. But yeah, it's all good. And then I say, do you want me to do some more Roger Moore? It is. There's a lot of lines, puns. The writing's on the wall. Don't say it. Don't. that wasn't scripted. It's just Desmond Llewellyn saying, "Don't say it." And then Bond's in Russia. We meet Jack Wade, who, as some of our fans on Facebook have pointed out, but the whole confusion of the fact that Jack Wade is played by Joe Don Baker, who only 2 films previous was playing one of the main villains, Brad Whitaker. Yeah. So Bond films have had a history of this because Maud Adams played 2 different characters, and it's almost, I think, in a way, a little bit lazy. It's like there's plenty of other actors out there. Yeah, no, but maybe we got on so well. You can come back. We'll bring you back as a bad guy. I mean, Joe Don Baker is probably. I quite like him as Jack Wade. He's he's obviously it's Felix Leiter light, but he's got some good quips, and I think he's probably becomes a bit more into his own in Tomorrow Never Dies as well. Yeah, I think I still prefer him as Brad Whitaker, though. I don't know. Maybe it's just him again. Whitaker. It's all very, we see obviously Bond coming together with Natalia. They meet, and you've got that great, I don't know why I love that scene in the prison cell, because it's, as I say, one very self-aware one. No interrogation, no chit-chat, moving with the times, and I just love the character. Was it Jackie Cario versus Umarov? It's just it's such a great scene. But the one of the things I sort of didn't really pick up on like first few watches is the fact that Uramov's such a drinker. Yeah, he's completely shit-faced. He turns up and he's like, James Bond killed Defense Minister Mishkin, and then like the whole chase scene, he's just constantly swigging away. He's just like, he's lost it. I've lost the plot. But yeah, again, I think there's that whole tie-in archives on the N64 game. We've played that level. That was one of the best levels on the game, wasn't it? Yeah, especially the single player. But yeah, you've got again some really good action scenes with that whole bit with the archives, and then the very, very silly but impressive tank scene. Yeah, and once again, seeing that in the trailer, you were like, what? Yeah, and not so subtle, just basically destroying half of St. Petersburg for, secret agent. On whose side? Watching that again recently, I couldn't get over the destruction. Like, how do they get away with that? Well, it's done in, there's a lot of, some of it's filmed on location. It's very clever. Again, it's in the special features. they did a lot of on-set work in St. Petersburg.
But when he goes through the wall, it's
basically
not St.
anything with destruction. They basically recreated a whole St. Petersburg street at Leavesden.
Wow.
I mean, if you think about it, they did that for Tim Burton's Batman. You know, all of Gotham City was a set. But the fact that they faithfully recreated, like, I think at least a street and a half.
But it's just a destruction when the tank's going through the walls and stuff.
I mean, it's so over the top, but it is, as you say, it's brilliant.
So Bond.
It is very Bond.
Only Bond.
And especially with the giant Perrier water product placement where he crashes through the truck. I think it was something ridiculous, like 90,000 cans were required for that stunt.
And they had to pay Perrier for every single one of them.
Yeah, well, no. Apparently, I think they struggled to find an advertiser for that. Apparently, no one wanted to see their
truck get destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got tank versus car, then tank versus train.
And Bean, as I say, he's going... We haven't really spent enough time talking about Sean Bean, you bastard.
Yeah. Brilliant foil to...
Well, it's like, I know his every move.
I know how he thinks. I know how... Yeah, but he is. He's one step ahead all the way.
I think he is one of the greatest...
one of the best villains that Bond faces up against. Because he doesn't need a henchman, or he has a hench lady.
Well, exactly.
Person.
And the fact that, you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of, he can match Bond in hand-to-hand combat, which is not the sort of... whereas in, you know, Tomorrow Never Dies, you kind of feel sorry for him, like picking on poor Jonathan Pryce.
He's just beating up an old man.
But yeah, that whole bit where Trevelyan spots the tank and he's like, Bond, only Bond. He's like, full speed. So he drops his whole like posh English, full speed, ram him.
Ram him off track. Off the track,
you bastard. No, Sean, you can't keep saying bastard. We're going to have to cut that out.
And you're still the same cruel, flogging bastard.
You lily bit of a Dutch bastard!
After the bastards that did this, where do you think?
This is a bastard who sets us up for the floggings.
Bastard that knows how to deal with bullying bastards like you.
You pink bastards do that. Oh, you little gutless bastard! Pick a sack, you miserable bastard! Stand by, you bastard!
Bastard. Bastard.
Yo, you're right, set of bastards.
We do love him. He's great, and he dies in nearly everything he's in.
Yes, that's true. In true Bond fashion, we have the over-elaborate death trap. You've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, you've got 3 minutes. I've locked you in.
Just kill him. I've got a gun in my room.
Just shoot him.
Shoot him in the head.
Hang on. First, I'm going to reveal my plan, and then I'm going to give you 3 minutes to cut your way out with the laser. Another sorry, we keep mentioning it, but another great level from the game. You having to use the watch to get out of the train.
Definitely. Is it just me? But as much as I like Natalia, I think she's a good, feisty, independent Bond girl. Gives her own. I don't think she has that much chemistry with Bond, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they've got together. Like all of it, she was like giving him loads of sass.
Boys with toys.
Yeah, in the prison cell, and then all of a sudden, yeah. Saved my life.
Yeah. I suppose I will sleep with you. I want on this train track.
Yeah. Let's make out on the side of this burning train track.
Oh, James.
Paid lip service.
That's always been a Bond thing.
Yes,
that they would just.
Well, it's again, it's a Roger Mooreism, isn't it? But it's just the fact that like I hate you. Oh, I like you.
Life and death situation. A gentleman and a killer.
So we are getting into third act territory.
Let's go somewhere sunny.
Let's go somewhere sunny. Let's go to Cuba.
Yeah, let's get in our car. Me, you, 2 stuntmen wearing wigs.
Well, the reason I know you sent me a screen grab of that saying delicious stuntmen, but before that scene, again, it's a very blink and you miss it. But the fact was they got a pilot to land right in front of a moving car. So it's a very, very clever stunt. But again, it's a bit pointless.
Yeah.
And the whole car is a bit pointless. We haven't got enough budget for that. You know, we said it's got all those gadgets. We're not going to show them.
Yeah, don't use it.
But obviously they make up for it in Tomorrow Never Dies, which is one of my favourite car sequences in any Bond film, that whole multi-story car park and stuff
brilliant.
like that. But yes, the sheer cost of creating that evil lair. Do we need to go into logistics of that? I mean, we're talking about films that have featured a hollowed out volcano, but still, again, it is a throwback to that.
Yeah, so we've got a lake and underneath it a satellite.
And an evil lair full of many staff, soldiers.
Bad guys who need to be killed.
Server rooms, IT support.
Yeah, how would you get in there? There'd have to be an access panel.
But don't worry about that. But that is actually a radio telescope in...
It's not Cuba.
It's not Cuba. But
is it Costa Rica?
I think it's Puerto Rico,
Costa Rica. Let's just start shouting out Central American places.
Panama. But it was also featured in the film Contact. So it is an actual real, that without the water.
With Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. Without, obviously, the evil hidden lake, it is that when the water's being emptied, that is what it actually looks like. It does actually have that walkway and suspended over.
But brilliant set design, very Bond.
I think, obviously, more delicious miniatures, you know, with a bit where... And there is a little bit where you see them approaching it, and it's a little bit sort of... mishmashy.
But then we get everything we want to see. We see Bond.
Well, as you said, him being that, moving his head, dodging the bullets, like, in a sort of laid back manner. I forgot.
And being a badass, taking out so many guards, having a plan and having a backup plan and having the...
But again, you've got Trevelyan, is it the button on the left? I know he knows all his moves. And for me, I forgot how good, there's some really good dialogue in this, all the martinis to silence the screams of all those girls you failed to save.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, is that too self-aware? Would he actually say that to him? It's like, you're nothing more than a common thief, Alec.
Yeah. No, I think they've got, it's one of the strengths in this film.
Their chemistry. Between the two of them. So much respect, I think, between Bronholm and Trevelyan. It's Sean Bean.
It's personal. It's a personal mission, as a lot of Bond films are, but it actually... You can get behind it. It doesn't feel a little bit over the top. And it's good to have, the fact that the villain has a personal connection. It's not like a revenge. It is a revenge sort of thing, but it's revenge on the person that he thought was dead.
Yeah. So I can't believe you. I'm angry with you for making me worry about you.
Yeah. I'm worried about you for all these years. But we've chatted about this before, that the Bond versus Trevelyan fight on the satellite is one of the best in the series.
Definitely.
The stunt work, and apparently they rehearsed it for weeks.
And it's the stakes. It's because you can see, it's staged.
But it's really good choreography as well. I would say that, a lot of people talk about
brutal,
how...
it looks real.
But a lot of people talk about, obviously, how Bourne influenced the Daniel Craig Bond films, that whole sort of fighting brutal style. But in this, you look at it, it is properly brutal and quite violent for a Bond film. There's headbutts, there's, lots of Pierce Brosnan doing this.
But it's brilliant, and as I say, I love how it's staged, how it's like that they're above this, this massive fall, and as you say, that every turn they are mono y mono. They're very well matched. And we're getting to, which I think is probably the best finishing pun. It's not a pun, It's like, yes, it harks back for England, James. No, for me, it's like, and there's another line that's very poetic. It was like, you expect me to lie for you? It's like, no, you were supposed to die for me.
Yes.
And it's like, you get just a snapshot of their relationship. It was like, you were supposed to die to help this plan sort of thing. So, because it's never really revealed... you have the whole Janus thing and how it was part of the plan was, it was all part of his plan.
Yeah.
From the very beginning. So as I said before, and this is not just from us going backwards and forwards through the plot, whether it's rewatching this film or playing the game, but I think it all holds together more than some Bond films.
Well, I think that's it. If you look at Brosnan's Bond career, it is very much a case of diminishing returns. It is a sliding scale. I think it's safe to say. I have a lot of time for Tomorrow Never Dies.
Well, Jonathan Pryce is brilliant. Stamper.
Jonathan Pryce is over the top.
So hammy, it's brilliant.
no news like bad news.
Yeah, I can't wait till we do that. I mean, that was so pre-internet days.
And he's got that massive keyboard thing he's tapping at.
It's like a keyboard the size of a VHS.
That he's tapping on very excitedly. There's a lot of good stuff in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Wilder's not enough.
It's so dull. Even Robert Carlyle looks like he can't be asked.
It's just bored.
Yeah. And the less said about Die Another Day, the better, really. It's just... And the fact is, that I was going to go talk about earlier, is the fact that Brosnan ages very quickly across those 4 films. He looks really tired by the time he gets to like Wilder's Not Enough.
I think he's all right. It's just I remember my reaction to seeing Die Another Day was I saw it at the cinema and I was like, okay. And then I got the DVD and watching the DVD I was like, he's just too old. He just looks too old. But then he went on to make some brilliant films since Bond, and he is still proving today. I haven't seen it yet. The Foreigner.
Where he's playing. He's not playing Jerry Adams. He's just a person that looks and
sounds like Jerry Adams.
No, The Foreigner, again, that's a Martin Campbell film. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a very odd beast. It's a little bit Rambo, it's a little bit Patriot Games, but it's worth a watch. That's on Netflix.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that to me, so I'm gonna have to check that out. No, but he's made some of his best work after Bond.
Yeah, so there's obviously Thomas Crown Affair is a good remake. He's very good in The Matador, where he's playing a washed up assassin. He's great in I watched it again recently, which was during his Bond time, but in Mars Attacks as a very hammy scientist.
Yeah,
this is a great day, Mr. President. You know, he's quite good at poking fun at himself, which is quite a prerequisite for this type of stuff. But yeah, I think Brosnan does get a lot of stick, obviously, since Daniel Craig has really sort of taken the role and sort of made it his own. But yeah, I think for me, if things had been different,
if we got him earlier in his career.
Yeah, I think but then we wouldn't have got Delicious Dalton.
Yeah, but all I can say is the good news is that Pierce Brosnan he's finally of an age where wearing his trousers up to his armpits is completely acceptable.
It's completely fine. But I don't know if you saw recently, because at the moment he's like, he's obviously proper silver fox, and he's got this like Colonel Sanders, Mr. KFC sort of evil sort of mustache goatee beard at the moment. He turned up at the Oscars, and somebody just shared a photo of him and says, Pierce Brosnan looks like the type of guy who wants to invite you to his island to hunt men.
He looks rather eccentric and evil. He's turned into an evil genius.
Yeah. Come to my island to hunt the greatest prey, man. So yeah, I think we've been chatting for a while, and
who's that? Is that Jeff and Celine?
It is Jeff and Celine.
Oh my gosh, I'll let them in.
Why not? Why not?
Okay. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
I think I've only got one main one so Coulda Woulda Shoulda.
Did I ruin it before by talking about Sean Bean was considered for the role?
No, I think it's important to talk about that. But yeah, Coulda Woulda Shoulda, people who almost got the role. So I'm not sure if this was when it was in development with Dalton still in the lead, but originally Trevelyan was going to be Bond's mentor rather than sort of equal, and he was going to be played by none other than me, Tony Hopkins.
Anytime start shining.
And that was it. He was going to be Bond's teacher.
But he was still going to go bad.
And he was still going to go rogue.
That's been used in a few other films.
Well, pretty much like Mission Impossible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which, it was a year later. But for obviously, I think they made the right decision to make it an equal rather than a father type figure, because Bond's got enough daddy issues as it goes. But I think that is the main.
Well, we touched on it a bit in terms of production chat. There's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda that happened before.
Well, it could have been Timothy Dalton.
Yeah. Could have been Roger Moore. Okay, so that was Coulda Woulda Shoulda. Special features?
Special features.
Should we talk about the game a little bit?
Well, we can talk about the game.
So George and I played Goldeneye before recording this.
So I have an N64 I bought off eBay about 10-15 years ago that I keep in cold storage for such occasions.
And I'm now feeling that I'm going to have to go and get one because George kicked my ass. Me, the gamer. Me, the guy who plays COD for 2 hours every night and rakes up an impressive kill-death ratio, couldn't deal with an inverted aiming control system.
It's very different because we're so used to 2 analog sticks, where that's just one. But yes, it was a lot of fun to go back and play. Obviously, yes, it has dated quite badly, but I'd say, considering I've also recently picked up a PlayStation Classic, so rediscovering PlayStation games, I think it stands up a lot better than some of the PlayStation games.
The graphics still look good. It's the sound effects and the playability. I
mean, we haven't played, I think after this...
we'll give the single player another go.
Yeah, definitely, for old time's sake, because that is a proper sort of a cartridge of nostalgia.
Like what you did there.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and we used to play. I remember coming up to see you when you were a student in Edinburgh, and it was literally, what'd you get up to seeing Charlie the weekend? Just played Goldeneye.
I remember being like, so I would have been a bit older, about 16 when this game came out, 16, 17, and being at a friend's house, and like we'd been out the night before and I'd stayed over, and he'd had he had Goldeneye on the N64, and he's like, I've got to go out and do this thing with my cousins, but if you wait here, and I'll come back. And so I was basically there for something like 8 hours by myself, and I played, and it was the first time I played it, and I just played it solid for 8 hours. Just couldn't get enough of it.
Without excuse the pun, but it was a game changer. It has, and they've actually, I've seen, and I'll share this on the blog. They're actually making a documentary where they've tracked down the original programmers and stuff like that. Rare. But yeah, they've made a documentary all about the game and talk about how the fact it changed the face of first-person shooters, the fact it, before that, film...
We wouldn't have had Call of Duty without that.
Exactly. Well, and if you think about it, it changed the face for, like, film game adaptations. Film games were, like, pretty crap beforehand.
Be interesting to see how it compares in terms of success of the game versus the film. I mean, obviously the film stands up the test of time, but it's up there.
In terms of the sales as well, I mean, I think that's it with the Nintendo 64 was so, like, it was probably the figurehead game for that console. I mean, obviously you had
1080 snowboarding,
Mario Kart and stuff like that, but I mean, obviously it was the sole reason that I bought mine off eBay was when they announced they were making, they remade it with Daniel Craig about 10 years ago. I think around the time of Skyfall came out.
No, it just wasn't the same. It was good to play with a dual controller. It was good to have the update.
Yeah, so it was effectively like a remake, but in a game.
Reskinning.
But at that time I was like, why would I pay 40 quid when I can probably buy a Nintendo with Goldeneye, an N64 with Goldeneye for less than that? And I did. I got it for like 25 quid.
I think it's better just to get the N64 than to try and go back and repeat it. And also, when you look at the Bond games that we've had...
Well, you and I have had a lot of fun playing Bond games over the years. There was...
what's that one?
Agent Under Fire. Was that the one where you could, like, it looked like you were firing peanuts?
Yeah, that was the one with the evil Chloe zone.
Evil Zoe clone.
Evil Zoe clone. And then there was the one on...
There was Everything or Nothing. That was really good.
Was that the one? Was that the one where you could have a gun in each hand and you could like swap guns? I think that was.
Oh no, that was Goldeneye Rogue Agent.
That was it, Rogue Agent. Yeah, silly, very silly plot. But Everything or Nothing had its own plot, and it had Bronholm.
Well, Everything or Nothing is technically Brosnan's last appeance as Bond because it came out after. Or came around the same time as Die Another Day.
It was after Die Another Day.
But it had, it had Willem Dafoe as the bad guy.
It had Judi Dench. It had John Cleese.
And had, they'd thrown a lot of money at it. It was a great game. It was bastard hard as well.
Yeah, very difficult. But all the little gadgets, flying the little helicopters and driving the nanobots. And oh god, yeah, the last level was the guys wearing
nanosuits.
Invisibility suits. It was like, that's ridiculous.
I don't think I ever finished it because it was so hard.
It was that last level. You couldn't, it was very hard to do. I think you had to change the setting and then complete it and not tell anyone.
And obviously we've played was it Bloodstone,
but no, my favourite is the one that Connery came back to do.
From Russia with Love.
That was a lot of fun.
When Connery sounds so old. I mean, it's great having back, but he sounds a bit hoarse.
It's a fun game. It was a fun game. That was PS2, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Some great games on the PS2. So yeah, well, I don't
know, but somebody pointed out, I think it was our friends at Sudden Double Deep, they mentioned there hasn't been a Bond game for 8 years. Since 2012. I think the last one was... Well, no, they did Legends, which came out around the time of Skyfall, which was... Daniel Craig again revisiting key Bond. So there was like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. There was
Was Bloodstone the one where you just you crept up behind someone stealth and then pressed triangle and then does a series of moves?
A series of cutscenes.
A series of cutscenes. It's like, well, can I not just do those moves?
Yeah, no, I think there was 3 that were released around the same time. So there was the Goldeneye remake, Goldeneye 007, there was Bloodstone, and then there was Legends, which was like a COD ripoff, and everyone said it's probably one of the worst Bond games because it's such a lazy cash-in. It's like there's no stealth, it's just a very COD light type thing. I've never played it. I'm sort of tempted to just sort of maybe pick up a copy as a completist, but people have said almost like don't bother.
Well, would you another game? Let's hope they do something different.
Well, it looks like we're not going to get one for Daniel Craig, but who knows what we'll get for the time. Let's just go back and play Goldeneye on the N64.
Exactly. Okay, anything else we need to cover?
No,
talking about this. Obviously, James Bond will return in Tomorrow Never Dies, which we've obviously talked about, and we will cover.
No Time to Die, not Tomorrow Never Dies.
No, I'm saying
this.
After Goldeneye, it was Tomorrow Never Dies, which we will cover at some point on Retro Ramble.
Oh, for sure. And as I say, we obviously
lots of fun with that film.
We'd obviously love to cover the Dalton ones as well. There's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of nostalgia for us. I remember, as I say, watching License to Kill on VHS and stuff like that. So.
But we will get back to the Roger Moore ones. I think with something like Bond, like we've talked about before, or with Star Wars, these are special films that we will probably release either at a bank holiday or just before a Bond film's about to be postponed. I mean, released, whatever. We got some shout outs. Yeah, so just in a way of saying thanks, all the people who've written in the questions, we were having a bit of a chat about, just the fact that we were going back to Goldeneye, and we asked you guys to send in some questions, comments, and pithy comebacks. So I just want to give those guys a mention. So James Hennessy gets a special mention for giving us some advice on how to play the game, and we definitely did follow that advice. There was no odd job, and there was definitely a lot of slappers, but we didn't use the golden gun. We went for power weapons because our aim was so bad.
We've also got Macaulay Gallagher, who says it's one of his favourite Bond films, and he agrees with us. He says to this day he thinks the fight between Brosnan and Bean is one of the best in the Bond franchise,
which I would agree with. And also good to see that Macaulay obviously has listened to our View to a Kill, either has listened to a View to a Kill podcast episode or
has similar feelings about
that old guy in it. Yeah, and thanks to Rylan Delorme, all the way from lovely Canada. So thank you very much for listening, and for
Southern Saskatchewan. Sorry, we can't pronounce that. I don't think
you're pronouncing that right. I wasn't going to even try to that. And Andy Jones, I hope your knee gets better. I don't know whether that's I can kind of relate. I have that fear, that I've got old sports injuries that if I ever move to Moscow and start working in the mafia, my knee aches. So
twice a day.
Yeah.
Lee Hallam, we had a bit of a chat with him about the whole Joe Don Baker not making any sense, him popping up so soon after Living Daylights as Jack Wade.
And Casey Millward, obviously we were talking about it is what I think defines the film, the line of for England, James, no for me, makes it personal. So thanks for pointing that out. Obviously our friend Rocky, you know who you are, Mr. Tech Noir. So thanks for the Partridge reference. David Simpson, James Diaz. Anybody else, George, that we should mention?
No. Well, obviously we thanks go out to all the people that share, like, and subscribe. Please, as we always say, share with like-minded people. Leave us a review on iTunes if you're using iTunes, because that helps us be more visible to more people.
And keep the suggestions coming. Obviously, George and I cover film. We're only going to pick the films that we've watched growing up, but there's a lot of films to choose from like late 70s, but it's mainly 80s, 90s, and early noughties is what we cover on this podcast.
Well, we'd be interested to hear what, even though it'll be a while, but what Bond film should we do next from the 80s and 90s? That would be interesting to see what people's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so definitely worth a rewatch, but I mean, who doesn't go back and enjoy watching a Bond film? It's what bank holidays were made for, or vice versa.
Or a good hangover.
Yeah, definitely.
Good hangover telly.
Yeah, it's just like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all from us. I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.